All right, here we are. Welcome to the Fantasy Thinker. I am Jared Quartermanch, and with me today I have my very special friend and guest, Varsha. And today is what I'm going to be calling the Great Experiment to try and figure out why I took notes on certain sections in Stephen Erikson's Dust of Dreams. Yeah, look at that. Uh, I just finished this book last a few days ago, and I know Vasha, you finished it. When did you finish it? Back in
I want to say about a year ago. So I finished Cripple God, I think maybe at the beginning of this year or late last year. And I took about 4 or 5 months to read the Cripple God. So yeah, maybe mid last year at the earliest is when
hmm.
I finished it. So the added challenge is that I may not even remember what Jared's talking about. So together.
Yeah, and that's a funny thing is I it took me about 3 months to get through this.
Hmm.
This is a reread for me, but the last time I read it was like 8 years ago or so.
Hmm.
So it's been a while, and but even then, um, I found this book to be revelatory
Hmm.
on this reread through. I enjoyed it so much. I don't remember enjoying it as much the first time I read it
Hmm.
as I did this time. This time it blew me away, which is really interesting when you think about that, and what a reread can do.
Yeah.
Or because I didn't, back then, 8 years ago, I didn't have YouTube and I didn't have all
Hmm.
that, all the stuff to help me keep track of stuff and what have you. And I was just reading whatever, whenever and whenever I did.
Yeah.
But so, of course, because we are YouTubers, we tend to take notes nowadays or highlight certain sections. And so I'm going to share my screen here, and we'll see what we can make of this, of my nonsensical brain as we go through here. I hope everybody can see the highlighted section. And so this was in a prologue. Um, the page number is 23 up here, but I'm sure it's different in the books. Um, but this is the part I highlighted says, when the Starvers and the bone-skinned Inquisitors marched on the city, his mother had sent them running, hand in hand with his sister, who was 2 years older than he was, and they'd run down streets between burning buildings, and screams filled the night, and the Starvers kicked in doors and dragged people out and did terrible things to them, while the bone-skins watched on and said it was necessary. Everything here was necessary. And at the time I read this, because it was just a prologue, I put a little note here that said, there's a lot of information
Hmm.
packed into this paragraph. And now I'm reading it and I'm kind of like, okay, what is that information? Because there's a lot of information packed in the whole book.
Hmm.
Uh, and I'm thinking, I think this is the beginning of the snake, if I'm not
I
mistaken.
think so. Yeah, it does seem like it. Plus, also the poem at the beginning with Rut and Held. I think
Yes.
it's definitely referencing the snake.
Yeah. And so I think the information we're getting here is that the snake was created by some kind of bad policy that's
Mm-hmm.
going on, with, wherever this city is and whoever these inquisitors are. Um, and because we know later on in this book, the snake it's a snake of a children going through the
Mm-hmm.
wastelands or the desert, and they're I think they're called a snake just because that's what their trail looks like. That's what
Yeah, how
they're
long it goes and how
yeah, and that's
winding it is, I think.
windy,
Yeah.
yeah, because that's what their column looks like, and
Mm,
they're not they don't seem to have a sense of direction or destination. It's just kind of wandering.
yeah.
Um, so what I mean, did you remember this part of the prologue? Because there's different sections to the prologue. So
I didn't. remember this. So the thing that I think I remember most from the prologue is the bit where Rut, I think he, wait, I seem to remember that the prologue, this is not the beginning of the prologue, right? Because I remember the opening is Rut picking up Held, and there was no hardship in this. That's the line I remember from the beginning of the prologue.
Oh,
And
right, yeah.
that line, for some reason, really stood out to me. There was no hardship in this. A boy picking up a child and then saying that it's not difficult. Um, but yeah, I didn't remember this, and I didn't even remember that they talked so early on about what it was that drove the children away. Because we're doing spoilers, right? It's okay to do
Oh, yeah.
spoilers,
Yeah,
yeah.
just in case anybody doesn't know, this is complete full spoilers, so either you have read this or you don't care about spoilers.
So the Inquisitors, we later found out, are the Folklore Assail, right? This is the first time this terminology is used. So I am curious, did you remember all of that about the Folklore Assail and how the snake was created and what happened to what drove these children out? And that's why you wrote about the information packing, because that's the information to me. And like, as always, I'm surprised that we know so much so early on that is then later laid out slowly, and we learn all of it over the course of the book. Or is it like, I know you, I love your reading the prose. So is it that the kind of information you're getting, you're picking at the words specifically and you like the way the sentences are formed here, or something like that?
Yeah, I think the information I wasn't sure that it was for Crusail, uh, at the time that I read that part, I don't think,
Mm,
because you don't immediately associate bone skins with the folk rule sale unless
right.
you're really paying attention
Mm,
very, very early on in the series, or if or if that just happened to stand out to you
mm,
and you remembered
yeah.
that. Um, but I knew that, whatever the case was, whoever these people were, that was telling us something about them that, uh, means that they were doing here what was necessary, and, that that sentence of necessary
Mm,
means that it's not necessarily something that they liked doing,
mm,
but something that they felt they had to. And so the, the fork rule sale in my head prior to this were just, you know, these kind of unknown evil type
mm,
of thing, and you don't really get to know them that in that manner, other than they're just these powerful creatures who are, um, not very nice,
mm.
and
Yeah.
uh,
And
you
who are
know,
doing terrible things and calling it necessary.
yeah. So, but why would? But I couldn't equate to why Fork Sale would need to drive them out,
Mm,
or just do this instead of just kill everybody, you know? Um,
mm. Or did they? I think they are trying to kill everybody, but some people escaped, right? The snake is formed of the kids who managed to escape, if I remember correctly. So the mother's
yeah,
telling the sister and Visto, no, Visto to take his sister and run away.
yeah, they did,
So
yep.
she was expecting that they would be killed if they stayed.
Yeah, and that's telling us that right there, yeah, that there are people who are running away, and I guess what it's telling us is that th that people managed to get away
Mm,
from this evil, and, that it was possible to get away from
yeah,
this evil.
yeah.
Um, and yeah, that's interesting because I think that's what I meant by there's so much information
Mm,
here that it
yeah.
really, sets all that up, to come.
Did we know at this point in the story? I'm trying to remember. You read it a lot more recently than I did, but uh, at this point in the story, the nature of the folklore sale, that they pass judgment and then they take action, or is that something that's revealed to us over the course of this book?
No, I think we find out that a little later,
Okay.
I believe,
Hmm.
and, you know, I could have definitely missed something. Uh, but so that's a lot to take in just for that little passage,
Yeah.
and everything that surrounds it as well. This is just a prologue. Moving on to page 28 here, I have the truth remained. The Kel Hunter Sag Churok and the one daughter Gunth Mak had failed.
Mm,
And this was in relation to the Kachane Chamal. Um, and we find out at this point that their race is going away.
mm,
There's not many of them left, and that these particular ones had failed in what they were trying to achieve. And I think this is a reference back to Reaper's Gale,
mm.
to Red Mask,
Yeah,
and that they failed to get what they needed from Red Mask, and that's why they ended up killing him.
yeah.
Um,
Did they need a mortal sword in Red Mask, or did they want a destriant, or did they just want a hero in Red Mask and of some sort, like someone who would lead their people? But so I remember now at this point the matron is adopting the aspects of religion of the humans, right? That's why she's appointing a destriant,
yes,
and I guess they're looking for a mortal sword and shield anvil.
that
So
is correct. Yeah,
did I guess Red Mask was meant to be the mortal sword, right?
yeah,
But
he
he
was meant
failed.
to be something like that. I think they failed because they didn't get what they needed from Red Mask, whether it was the mortal sword or the Destriant. Well, no,
Yeah.
I think they might have been confused about the differences, maybe,
Mm-hmm.
and Red Mask didn't fulfill any of
Yeah.
that. Um, because now they have Kalith, who's in the next
Mm,
line there, and she's the new Destriant, and then um, but they're worried that she can't mend it, and so they the main thing I got out of that is they failed as a race to keep going and
mm,
and and keep on going, or they feel they failed. Because it mentions empathy in the line before that.
yeah.
So I'm just kind of putting all this together as we're seeing it. but
That's
but
what we do.
yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, so that's pretty interesting. That's pretty interesting now that I have finished it, because I know what happens later, um, where they do successfully find a mortal sword in a um, what's the other one?
Shield anvil.
Shit,
Shield
yeah.
anvil. Yeah.
They do succeed, yeah, in a couple of Malazan guys. They find one later on, and so that's interesting that they feel they failed now, and
Mm,
this seems very despondent at the time.
yeah. Is this Caleb's perspective? It is, right? It seems to be.
I think so. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that's how we'd know that the matron
yeah,
spoke in Caleb's
yeah.
mind.
The matron. Yeah, it's Kayla's perspective. Yeah, that's correct.
Oh, so now I'm very curious about the such empathy was short-lived, that line. Because
Right.
what was it that drove her from empathy to just stare the truth stark in the face? That is also very interesting. Can't say
That's a
I
good
remember.
question.
But
Yeah, no, that's a good question. That's a good question. I think because Kayla is human, and I have a feeling that she's got a lot to figure out when it comes to this alien mind of these
Mm,
Kachane Chamal, this ancient race that is reptilian in nature. And um, so when she says empathy short lived, I imagine that it is tough to empathize with them in
mm,
the first place. Uh, you
mm.
know,
Yeah. Is it that she had a vested interest in their success and so she's not able to empathize for too long because now they failed and she has to deal with the consequences of that, perhaps? I don't
yeah, I mean, I'm not sure, because I think them failing might mean the end of her.
know. Mm. Yeah,
And
that too.
so that's her vested interest
Mm,
in survival.
possibly.
Yeah. Uh, very interesting, Nick. Yeah, considering later events, that's yeah, something that just stood out to me.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then right on the next page, there's something about the cut down everyone, last one of these could change Jamal, the
World would not
world
miss.
would not miss them.
Ha.
And and that's when she's questioning why she should care about these creatures and why. And she's very fatalistic. Like, let
Mm,
the war come, let the mysterious enemy descend.
yeah.
And that's all very interesting because the you're introduced to this concept of this mysterious enemy and what, because we don't know what, way back in the uh Rebus Gale, the end of Rebus Gale, we don't know what the adjunct Tavor is up
Mm,
to.
right.
Nobody does. Nobody knows what she's up to. And so I think he's throwing a little hint here that there's going to be mysterious enemies. There's going to
Mm,
be whatever this Ampelus rooted is. Um, and there's going to be a decisive thing that the Kachin Chamala are going towards, and she doesn't care if they're all
mm,
cut down.
yeah.
She's very, very fatalistic at this point. I think it just reflects her feeling more than anything else right now.
I agree, and I think if I remember correctly, this line isn't quite as callous as it sounds. Kaylet is also dealing with the fact of being driven out from her own home, right? Like the children were.
Correct. Yep.
And her people have all died, and she's the last one remaining. So her despondency is more than just, I don't care about these alien creatures. It's my people all died. Why should I care about these alien creatures? And perhaps to a certain extent, I think she also has a degree of guilt as well about being the last survivor.
Mm.
So I think she wasn't able to do anything about the death of her people. And it's almost like a feet draggy, why should I care about them?
Yeah, that's
Uh,
good. That's good because that's like my people are gone. Nobody cares. So
yeah.
the world's not going to miss these things.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And nobody misses them too, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's more it's almost a statement of fact more than let them burn, I don't
Right.
care, yeah, I think,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Very interesting. Yeah. Awesome. Moving on to this page, and if you happen to come across any highlights that you may have had,
Mhm.
let me
Yes.
know. But just a little further on in the I'm still in the prologue here. Um, we have this passage that says they had been drawn by the sound of voices, only to find this solitary gaunt figure, skin of dusty green, tusk framing its mouth, carrying a sword but otherwise naked, a lone wanderer who spoke in 7 voices, who knew himself by 7 names. And I put a little note, who is this? Of course, now I know. Now I know who it is. Do you remember?
Oh, man, I would like to, it's a Jagut, right? And, oh, it's not Icarium, is it?
Yeah. Yeah, it
It
is.
is?
Yeah.
Oh,
I figured it out. Reading it just now, I didn't know at the time, but based upon the events at the end of the book, I'm like, oh
mm,
yeah,
yeah,
that's
okay.
Icarium.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So we got a little hint of his fate because at the end of Reaper's Gale, we don't really know where he goes and what he's up to.
yeah,
Um, after the big explosion or
yeah,
whatever it was there. Um, and so in the prologue here, he's just giving us, here he is. Don't worry.
mm.
He'll be along later.
Is
You
it at the end of Reaper Scale or in this book that he goes and finds a, I don't know, an old Kajane Jamal spaceship thing and then
It's this book.
okay,
Yeah.
it's this book. Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
that's why
yeah,
I thought it wouldn't be Icarium because I expected he was already there. But okay,
yeah.
this is
That
on
doesn't
his
happen
journey.
yet. At
Okay.
this point, he's just there in the wastelands.
Okay.
He doesn't find uh the Kachin Jamal throne or whatever it is that he finds.
Got it.
Uh and
Got
that
it.
happens later on, as we'll see. But for now, we're just introduced to him
Mm.
without him actually saying coming out and saying this is Icarium.
Yeah.
He's
I like that. I
yeah.
actually like that. I know some people have difficulty with it, but I actually like these little puzzle things and I'm like, I can really to figure out who this was.
Yeah, it's subtle,
Yeah.
and like I said, at the time, I wasn't sure. That's
Mm.
why I wrote that little note, "Who is it?" Uh, but it's fun when you do figure it out and you're like,
Yeah,
"Oh, yeah, okay. He was in
very
the prologue."
rewarding.
One more thing in the prologue, right on the next page, we have "A final war had begun."
Yes.
Um, and of course, this we know that this is actually this and the Cripple God are kinda one
Mhm.
book. And of course, it's gonna be a final war. It's the end of the series, it's the end of a mega huge series. So I mean, that was just um, a statement,
Mhm.
an obvious statement for a prologue to make about the end of a series. But I was confused at the time I read this where exactly this is
Mm.
this section. I forget.
Whose head are we in?
Yeah, that's what I was trying to remember here. Um,
I want to see if I highlighted that because that looks like a highlightable line. Uh, Page 30. Are we still in the prologue?
yes, it's the final section of the prologue.
Okay.
I see you, Fenner. This guy,
Oh,
whoever it is, it's somebody mentioning.
so the last we saw Fenner, he was in oh, what is the name of that city? Lether, right?
Oh, this is okay. This is Heberick. This is the ghost of Heberick,
Oh, right.
and
Okay.
this I remember now. This confused the heck out of me,
Hmm.
because I did not remember what happened to Heberick after he was cut down in Bone Hunters, I think,
Yeah.
by the Talanamas, and I did
Didn't
not
we
remember what happened to him.
in Bone Hunters? Wait, the last I remembered of Heberick after this was him sort of going into the abyss and seeing a lot of. Did he see green then? But he heard a lot of voices, and he had sort of been taken to be the tiger trait. That's the tiger, right? Tiger of the summer.
Yeah.
His uh was it Destriant or Shield Anvil? I think he thought he was the Destriant, but then it turned out he was the Shield Anvil. That's the last I remembered of Heberick. Did he get killed after that or before?
Well, he was killed in Bone Hunters when they the Talanamas appeared. He was with Cutter.
Right. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, and he was chopped up. He was
Oh, interesting. Okay.
um
Oh, so the other stuff is from the previous book or earlier in the book? The
I'm not sure, but
hmm.
this like he's kind of a ghost right now.
Okay.
Um and but he's seeing a lot of stuff here. He's seeing a lot. Um he talks about, yeah, I am Herrick Ghost and Destriant to a
Hmm.
cast down god. It's Fenner.
Okay.
Um and so he sees wolves, he sees a whole bunch of different things,
Nice. And a
and,
final war had begun. And
in effect,
he
yeah.
does he mean the one with Tower's army, do you think? Or is this oh, he means the war amongst the gods.
Right, yeah.
Hmm.
Yep. Yeah, that's
Ah, the
that's what he
sea that must
means.
dream of you.
Yes, and, we move into book 1,
Yes.
and we move into, the next thing I had here was, 5 or so pages later, it
Hmm.
said, "The world delivers its lessons in manners subtle or, if required, cruel and blunt, so that even the thickest of subjects will comprehend. Failing that, they die. For the smart ones, of course, incomprehension is inexcusable."
Hmm.
And I thought that was just kind
Yeah,
of amusing, actually. So
I like that.
I
Yeah.
highlighted that just because I thought it was just a neat little philosophical um, meandering there.
I agree. It's I like that one. It sounds like something I would highlight. I don't know if I actually did, but um I guess I did not. Now I will. Now I shall.
Yeah, it's just a little thing that about how the world is sometimes,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
unfortunately for some, it doesn't work out so well.
Mhm.
And what was that? That was on page 39. So
Oh, that's convenient. The Kindle pages mirror my page numbers, so I
they
can
do.
just
Oh,
yeah.
cool. All right, where was I? Ah, yes. Moving up to page 47, we have generally speaking, people useless at everything else become academics. So I laughed out loud uh, with that one.
I don't agree, but it's funny.
Yeah, I think Mr. Erikson was poking fun at some people he might know. That's just my gut feeling. I don't know if it's true, but don't know how you feel about that one.
Yeah, no, it's a hilarious line for sure.
And that was Bug saying that, so it made it even funnier.
Oh my god. I s
Yeah.
I thought it was stay home.
No, no, Tejo agreed with him. He said, "My thoughts exactly, Bug."
Oh.
So that was just amusing. I love that line.
Yeah, I agree.
I love that line. And so I moved on to page 67 here,
Mhm.
and it said something about the maybe.
Yes. What you gotta drink?
And and I'm not sure who was he referring to here.
My is it is
Who said that?
who said that? Greetings, Pinocel. Who is
Oh,
that?
it's the Aquator.
Hmm,
Um, why is she a maybe though? Oh, that's a word for mother.
right.
And
Oh.
because she's pregnant with
Hmm.
Troll Sengars. Troll Sengar, right?
Oh.
Yes.
Yes.
Um, and she's of course alone because Troll died.
Hmm.
Um, and but the use of that word caught my attention just because of what happened in Memories of Ice.
Right, yeah.
With Silver Fox and the Mybe there.
Mhm.
This is more of an honorific
Hmm.
for like mother, but it
Yeah.
was just an interesting use of language
Mm.
relating because this is another continent, but
Yeah.
it's funny how some terms of language can be similar from one place to another and mean a similar thing and not exactly the same. And I like how, you can see that seems to be, I'm just guessing here, but it seems to
Yeah.
be Erickson's anthropological background, you know,
Mhm.
uh, seeping in.
Yeah.
And so I just like that how that she was given that honorific um, as a by I think who I
Is
don't know
it
who was
bug?
saying that. It wasn't Bug. It was somebody that was with Bug.
Hmm. Okay. Oh,
But
that's like bug was grimacing.
yeah, but I think Bug was watching out for her, and he's putting these people to watch over her,
Hmm.
and that was what was happening there. But I just liked the greeting. I liked the
Yeah.
use of, and I thought it was pretty cool and relevant to some of the other stuff that had happened before.
Yeah, I like that. I think this term sounded familiar to me, and it should have rung the bell, but it didn't when I was reading the book. So I'm glad you pointed it out. I like it.
Uh, let's see here. We got once the draconic blood took hold of us, we were driven apart.
Yes.
And this course was pretty cool because this is Silchas Ruin,
Mhm.
and he's referring to um, when the him and his brothers
Mhm.
became eland,
Mhm.
Eliant, or however you say that, dragons.
Linked? Yeah.
And so I just like that reference to their past
Mm,
between them, his
yeah,
brother Animander and Anderist, and that's the only reason I really highlighted that, just because of
yeah.
just for that point. Yeah,
It Have you read the Garganas trilogy yet, or are you
I
going to?
have. Yep.
Okay, yeah, so I haven't, but I don't know why
Well,
I even asked that, but
I
does it
wish I read
reference.
I wish I read the trilogy, but it's not out yet.
Oh,
Just
right.
the first two
But
books.
do you know, yeah, I haven't read it yet, but are the events mentioned here expanded on in that
Oh,
series then?
very
O
much so.
Okay.
Yeah. Um, the I mean the event, the mentions in here are so the tip of the iceberg, and
Mm,
and you got to keep in mind that it may not be 100% accurate
mhm.
because um, it's been hundreds of thousands of years, and the memories may not work the way they
Yeah.
you know after all that
Nice.
time. I
Yeah.
mean, my memory doesn't work from 2 weeks ago, so uh,
From yesterday.
yeah.
Um,
Um,
mhm,
and then I went down and highlighted this next section,
mhm,
which says, "Giving advice to a child is like flinging sand at an obsidian wall. Nothing sticks.
mm,
The brutal truth is that we suffer our own lessons. They can't be danced round. They
mm.
can't be slipped past. You cannot gift a child with your scars. They arrive like webs, constricting, suffocating, and that child will struggle and strain until they break, no matter how noble your intent. The only scars that teach them anything are the ones they earn themselves." And that
I
kind of
love
that
that.
that
Yeah.
was philosophy right there.
Yes.
It kind of hit home for me because I
Mhm.
have a lot of kids. So,
Yeah.
and I've felt that pain of flinging sand at a obsidian wall. So, it really that I've highlighted that because
Yeah.
it resonated with me. So,
It is beautiful, and I think we finally have a highlight in common, but
look at that.
the line I underlined from here is, "You cannot gift a child with your scars." Um,
Yeah,
I love that. I love how much that says,
yeah,
and
that's good. That's a
yeah,
really great line.
yeah,
Because every time it's like, every time I start or my wife starts with well, when I was a kid,
yeah.
you know, it's like the eyes roll up and
Mm. Yeah.
and so that line encapsulates that pretty
Yeah,
pretty well.
yeah. But
Yeah,
I don't have children of my own, but I think, like, from my own experience, it's whenever my parents gave me advice, it never stuck home until I had occasion to use it. And at that point, it's like the prevention part of it, too late. So you only understand it, I suppose, when you go through it yourself. So yeah, I love this passage. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Very cool. Very cool. All right, the next one says power is less about actual conflict, recognizing as it does the mutual damage conflict entails, with such damage making one vulnerable. Less about actual conflict then than it is about statements.
Mm,
Presence, Aquitor, is power's truest expression, and presence is at its core the occupation of space.
very nice.
Yeah, very cool line about the nature of power.
Yes, I
Uh,
like it.
I liked it. How is it relevant to the story as a whole, do you think?
Power is the occupation of space. To the story of as a whole, I'm not sure specifically this passage, but it is about, um, overall, the humans finding their space. I think the folklore sale trying to say, no, you're not significant anymore. It, I think a lot of threads we could see interweaving with this team, like literally and figuratively. It is about the I think presence is more than just, it's claiming that I have the power and, like, feeling powerful enough to say that, right? That, or the ego that it takes to assert power over somebody else.
Mhm.
So I like that, but yeah, I don't have a good answer other than I can see how it ties to
Yeah.
the entire series. But did you have a
I
specific thing in mind?
I think it also relates. I mean, it's a good general statement um, for the conflict in this world, but
Mm,
I think it also relates to the thrones, empty
mm,
thrones that seem to exist
right.
that
Yeah.
people are after, and that
Mm,
your presence on the throne is actually the expression of
mm,
a lot of power, uh,
yeah.
which is why they're so coveted.
Mm,
Um, so I felt it had something to do with that.
yeah. I like that. That is a great point. Yeah, I didn't think of that. For some reason, for me, I know the thrones play a central role, but they sort of took a background space because I don't think I fully understood what the role they play is. But I like that. I like the point that you just made.
Yeah, well, especially we'll see later on.
Mm,
Um, Icarium occupies one
mm,
later on in this book.
mhm,
Uh, so it comes to play.
mhm. Nice.
Uh, Next we have just general good knowledge.
Mhm.
Beware the leader who has nothing to lose.
Oh, yes.
So that's pretty self-explanatory, I think. There.
Mhm. Who is
Um,
this about? Do you remember?
who was this about? That's a good question. Good question. Let's see. It's on page 131. Um,
The Invitation into Madness.
I think it's Caliph again. I think
Hmm.
it's her
Oh,
words again, and she's referring probably to the matron.
mm.
Um,
And I have also underlined that.
oh, you did. How about that? Awesome.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe she means the matron, right?
And she's right. The Kachane Chamal at this
Yeah.
point have nothing to lose. They're
Yeah.
either going to succeed at something here,
Hmm.
or they're going to be wiped out.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're going to die off.
Yeah.
So that's very relevant to her situation and theirs.
So they aren't necessarily going to look out for the people following them. So
Hmm.
that's why you must beware. Okay.
Yeah. Uh, let's see. Next, I
135.
have on 135. Your weapon must be well tempered, soundly forged, ingeniously annealed, the edges honed with surety.
Mm,
And I had a little note of my own here saying she's talking about her search for people and not actual weapons.
mm.
And I think that's somebody's talking to an old man. Um, the old man said that, whoever the old man is. I got to
This
remember
is
who it
Caleth,
was.
right? Still? Hmm.
Let's see.
I am readying myself to wield the most formidable weapon. Who is this?
Oh,
Who's speaking?
is this Hebert again?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like something he would say, isn't it?
Yeah, because it says he held up his hands and he's like, "Expect a green, did you, green jade? But not
Yes.
this time." Um,
Yeah.
are they ready to grasp that most deadly weapon? I think not.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
yeah,
once again, Hebert makes his presence known, and
right.
I still am not sure how he comes into play later. It didn't
Mm,
happen. That wasn't quite answered in this volume.
yeah.
I'm wondering if it's answered in the Cripple God. I don't remember.
I'm
And
trying to remember. I think it has something it does tie back to Fenner if I remember correctly, but I
mhm,
can't remember.
yeah. But
Desperation, sorry.
yeah. No, go
Uh,
ahead.
Along similar lines, I think on the same page, maybe you need to go to the next page on the Kindle, but desperation delivers poison counsel, similar to the one about the leader who has nothing to lose. Uh, wait, I don't see it there. Maybe the
Did I
previous,
go too far?
yeah. Just a couple, maybe the page after that one then. No, okay. Yeah, it's on the same general page. So, but
Okay.
yeah, that's yeah. I've highlighted
Oh, it's right
several
before it. Yeah,
paragraphs.
right before it. Yeah,
Oh, there you
yeah,
go.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
That's right. Desperation delivers poison counsel.
Oh,
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
right. Yeah.
Very
Okay.
good.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think I've highlighted like every paragraph on this page.
Yeah, it seems like he's spouting out wisdom, and she's just yelling at him. Can you tell me something worthwhile?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and and this is also interesting because the people she ends up choosing uh, are the ones who have been tempered, so to speak, in the flames of the Tilan. Uh, is it the Tilan Warren that they get tempered in? Like whatever the stuff we saw in the second book,
It was, yeah, Stormy and Gessler.
right?
Um,
They're now
and yeah,
yellow.
they 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 are near ascended themselves,
Mm,
and so that's who they end up choosing.
yeah.
That's a good. It was a good. It was a very very cool how it
Hmm.
all happened.
Yes.
Uh, all right, let's move on to uh, a little mention of Krupp.
Oh yes.
Uh, I just loved that. I thought I because I loved reading about Krupp and Tola hounds
Hmm.
um I just like the little mention here and
And
I was
were
like,
you? Yeah.
yeah, I have a little note here that says what
Yeah. How
and
surprised were you about these two kids being his?
yes, yes, and I'm like, wait a minute, he has kids, and that's surprised that I don't remember that. I don't remember him having kids,
I
and
think this is the first mention of it. Or you mean from your first read?
first read or previous books.
Mm.
So
Yeah, I think this is the first mention of it, if I remember correctly. I think this is where we find out that this that the kids exist and that they are his.
that's just wild. I mean, because he's got all these like he's a wacky power himself. So um, what are these kids going to be like? That's
Yeah,
kind of
we
scary to
find out
think
through the
about.
book, but
All right, and then we move on to this. What was this? This is the beginning of chapter 5,
chapter 5.
and says, "You understanding me, son? Yes, sir. Good words for making a soldier. Keep the brain from getting too cluttered
Mm,
with things that might get in the way of holding his shield. Just show stabbing out with his short sword right there. It was a kind of discipline, what others might call obstinate stupidity,
mm,
but that simply showed that lots of people didn't understand soldiering." I like that little description of soldiering there.
yes.
I kind of understand it.
Mm,
Uh, being in the military,
mm,
um, I get where it's coming from, and I get that soldiers have to be that type of weapon that has to act without thinking
mm,
in some cases.
mhm.
More extreme in this world, of course, uh, but I just get it. I get it. When he said, "You understanding me, son," I understood. Whether this
Yeah.
guy did or not, I get it.
Nice. I like this. This is is this the section where the some of the people from the Malazan army are trying to teach stuff to the Lethery soldiers?
Correct. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. So very cool.
Yeah, I like that. I remember it getting really funny. Uh,
Yeah, there was actually a lot of amusing before they actually set out uh, an encounter into the wastelands.
yeah,
There was a lot of amusing stuff in this book, which
yeah,
really surprised the heck out of me because I didn't remember it being amusing the first time I read it,
yeah.
and this time I was like laughing a lot.
Oh yeah.
And oh, that's
And
great.
and even after they left, I think Shirk Elal, she's hilarious. I didn't
Oh
realize that she
yeah,
was. I thought in Letter, Tehul and Bug have all the humor. No, sir. Shirk Elal is fantastic.
yeah, and Sergeant Hellion, she is great.
Yeah.
The drunk sergeant.
Oh yeah, she's fantastic too.
Yeah.
Uh,
Uh,
I have one on page 160.
Oh, yeah.
same, I think, the end of this conversation.
Yeah.
The this is the part where it gets funny. He says, "You parley with them first, of course. You all agree to butcher the bastards." He reeled back and threw up his hands. "You don't fight wars. You don't fight battles. You just all form up and make new cemeteries." He wheeled on them. "Are you all idiots?"
Who was saying that?
I think this was, it wasn't
Braven
Gato, was it?
Braven Sergeant?
The same person who was speaking. Oh yeah, I guess. Yeah, Katil, I think. Or was it Brave and Sergeant?
It was Braven Sergeant, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Ah, I love that.
Oh, because he was talking about
Mm,
just killing all the mages
yeah, yeah,
before any battles so they wouldn't
yeah.
have. That's hilarious.
And then, sorry, just to continue on this thing, because I really appreciated this section quite a lot. The next, immediately the next passage after that, um, I think it's a conversation between Breeze and Queen Janat,
Mhm.
and he says about the Malazans, "I find them fascinating. Imagine an entire civilization that does not suffer fools." Um, and I think this is in the context of how the Malazan military, this comes up a few times. Malazan
Mhm.
army is allowed to think for themselves and make their own decisions,
Yeah.
sometimes when necessary, and to the point where even the leaders are answerable to them. And I think I found that as a whole really fascinating. And this line, I think, summed it up really well.
Yeah, it's very cool stuff. Yeah. Alright. Moving on, we have, 166 I got in here, 167. "The elder Warren Fist," said the adjutant, "of the Fork Rule Assail," and that's where
Mm,
we're getting a clue of what's up, what
yeah.
the adjunct may know something here, um, that, nobody else does, and, even though it's not a lot of information,
Hmm.
she's still keeping everything close to the chest,
Yeah.
but, um, we get a little information, though, about what the, possibilities of what they're gonna be running into, and, I just thought it was like a hint of stuff to come,
Hmm.
and, um yeah, and Quick Pen says they need a lot of blood for preparing the gate,
Yeah.
which kind of relates to the prologue and why they were killing all those people
Hmm.
and stuff like that.
Interesting.
If they do indeed need a lot of blood, yeah.
Mhm.
And then we get a reference to anyway. Icarium did something right here in Letharus,
Mm.
so we get a reference to the ending of Reaper's Gale when Icarium set off the that big explosion that related to the Azath house, I believe,
Mhm.
that was there.
Yeah.
Um, and it's some of the Malazans putting together what happened, because they make a reference to, of course, Karsa Olong
Mhm.
and tying together the Tobakai with Raraku and Icarium. Um,
So,
s-
sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, I was saying this is where we find out that so like Krull's blood powered the Wardens before, now Icarium's blood is creating a new set of Wardens somehow, and that's what's disorienting them, right?
Yeah, yeah, something like that. Because what he did in Letharus, like he's saying here, there's confusion, there's powers
Mm.
spitting at each other,
Yeah.
there's nothing you can use, um, and it got worse since Fiddler did his reading,
Mm.
um, and so that definitely set things in motion um, to make things more difficult to access
Mm.
warrants and stuff like that.
Yeah.
What he
Yeah.
did there. So I just like it that the Malazans are starting to put things together, and
Mm.
I like that little information that we got. Moving on to 199 abouts. The Northern Territories have not yet recovered from the Edur War. Fields lie fallow. The places where sorcery was unleashed now seethe with nightmare creatures and poisonous plants.
Mm,
Um, and I just had a note down here that says that is the dreaded environmental impact of foul sorcery,
mm,
which is a pretty common theme, I think, that
yeah.
runs through the whole series. And I just was like pointing out that there it is again,
Mm,
especially since it was just a war
yeah.
um, there.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it also it's throughout the series, but also these last two books really focus on, I guess, the environmental impact that humans have on their surroundings, how they destroy uh, their environments, I think.
Hmm.
So maybe in that context, also, this is the Idor, but no, the Idor versus the humans, right? Yeah,
No, they either no, there was the war between Letherus and the Eater.
right.
With
In Midnight Tides, that's the
yeah,
war
yeah,
this is
yep,
referencing. Yeah,
that's what's
okay.
referenced. Yep,
Yeah, and yeah, I like that.
yep, cool. All right, and then we move on to page 200 here. Um, all right, then we go the honest politician route. We climb the ladder of secular power. We soak and scam legitimately. So I thought that was just funny. I just put "ha" as my note 'cause I thought it was hilarious.
Oh, yes.
Once
Is
again,
this this not
Erikson's
Dale, right?
commentary on
Yeah,
Erikson's commentary on politics.
yeah. It's fantastic. Is
Yeah,
this in who said this?
uh, pithy. Um,
Oh, okay.
he is he is one of the um,
Pithy and brevity, right?
yeah, pithy and brevity. They they're they're part of the shake.
Yeah,
Um,
the Jan Torvis
yeah,
contingent. Yeah. Are
uh,
they women or I thought they were both women, right? Yeah.
I
Pithy
think so.
and
Yeah,
brevity. Okay, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
We
Yeah, and she, she talks about popularity contests and,
yeah.
it's you bed one half, I bed the other, so it's
Mhm.
just like that whole passage beyond that, it's funny too, the whole thing is
Oh,
funny,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
how, just the commentary on politics is just great, I love it.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Alright, moving into book 2, Eaters of
Yes.
Diamonds and Gems, which is an interesting title.
Uh-huh.
Um, we got, uh the errant is saying that his good move was he says mortals will eat anything. It was that was funny because that's in reference to Featherwitch stealing his eye and eating it
Oh.
from Midnight Tides, and I just laughed at that as well.
Oh, yeah.
So,
That's funny.
uh,
Could I do one real quick? It's
yeah,
at the very
please,
beginning of book 2. The poem at the beginning, the
yeah,
Badal one, just the last four lines. The story is about us, about a river of blood, and one day we'll run clear. The next one after this, the
yeah,
last four lines.
yeah. That's
I love this.
that's the beginning of the book. Yeah, book
Yeah.
2. Yeah, that's great. That's
It-
some. I love the poems in this book.
yeah.
They really. I thought he actually kind of upped his game with the poems
Hmm.
in this volume. I really enjoyed him a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I wrote down here, and I think this was very early on. We didn't see all the horrors the snake suffered yet, but I wrote down that there's such hope in these lines and what the children are wishing. And
Mhm.
you haven't, yeah, we'll talk about that when you finish the Cripple God. But the snake, I think that's one of my, that it's difficult to read, but it's a
It is.
brilliant
Yeah,
thread overall. Yeah.
agreed. Difficult and brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, and that is Badal who's saying
Yeah.
that. So that's
Yeah.
that he is part of the snake. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right. Moving up to 225 or so, we have That's not nearly as worrisome as what was happening back in the Milesian Empire. The ascension of Malik
Yes.
Rel, the Gistal. And I love that little reference to the
Mm,
Gistal, considering that's was previously going to be the name of Esamon's latest
mm,
book,
right.
Forge of the High Mage. And uh, and I just I just like the reference. I like the
Yeah.
cross reference, the mention of other things happening in the world that's not
Mm,
happening here, and the the fact that Malik Rel's in charge of the empire. Um and so it's just a really it's just a reminder of everything else that the world isn't stopping just because these guys are here fighting a
yeah.
war on their own,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. I like that.
I like that. Yeah.
So, are you rereading the Esselmont books as well, or are you reading them for the first time as you make your way through this?
I am. I'm
Okay.
rereading
Okay.
these as
Nice.
well.
Yeah.
Yep, yep,
I haven't read the Esselmont books yet, but I did appreciate that reference to. I think yeah, I was aware of the name change of the last book, but yeah,
yep,
that's pretty cool.
yep. And let's see. Why did you taste war against the Kachin Jamal? Why? Because they were different.
Nice.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, and that sums up so much about why people war against each other. It's
Yeah.
just,
It's so little and so much, right? And yeah.
yeah, exactly. And it's like and of course you find out that the Tice did war against Kachin Jamal. That may have been mentioned in another book at an earlier time, but you get confirmation of that. Um,
Mm,
and it seems like because you, you got to remember that there's hundreds of thousands of years of history,
yeah.
and so these wars, um, they took place a long time ago at different times, and there's a lot of history for the Tice have seemed to have like warred against everybody at
Yeah.
some point or another. So, um, and
All
she's
against
just
each
asking,
other. Yeah.
yeah, or and against each other, yeah,
Yeah.
and she's just asking why they did it against could change Jamal, and
Yeah.
of course,
I have that line highlighted too.
oh,
It's,
awesome,
I like that.
because they were different, yeah.
I think what really cuts through in this line is that she looked startled, like it's something that even bears questioning. Uh,
I know.
yeah.
That's yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, let's see here. So we got so maybe all that bitching was at both ends of life, the young and the old trapped inside chronic dissatisfaction.
I don't know what
I don't
that's
know what
about,
that
but
was.
that's
Yeah.
fine.
Why did I highlight that?
2:30.
It's definitely Mallows and soldiers talking to each
Mhm.
other.
Yeah.
Um,
The veterans just stayed quiet. It was interesting to see how it was the green, fresh ones who did all the complaining. Yeah. Think it's about the Malazan soldiers, the new ones and the old ones.
oh, okay. So I get somebody's complaining about it, everybody bitching, and
Mm,
um, chronic. I just like that word. I think chronic
yeah,
dissatisfaction.
yeah,
That's kind of amusing.
yeah. It could almost be the name of a disease, except it's not.
Right. That's funny. Uh, moving on to 239. I like this
Mm,
one. Wisdom grows by stripping away beliefs until the last tether is cut and suddenly you float free.
mhm.
Only because your eyes are wide open, you see right away that you can't float in what you're in. You can only sink. That's why the meanest religions work so hard at keeping their followers ignorant. Knowledge is poison, and wisdom is deathless, and so on. And I really, kind of resonate with that as well.
Yes,
I like that line a lot. I just thought it
me
was
too. I have
very.
that highlighted too. We have a lot of highlights in common,
See,
Jared.
great minds think
Yeah.
alike, right? Uh,
That's the
Can't
great
remember.
part of the great experiment, folks.
Yeah, that's the great. Yeah, and so that was, but I just like it. It's just something that I've felt myself over the years.
Yeah,
So
no, I agree with you. Yeah. It,
awesome. Uh, Moving on to more great mind stuff. We got worship, the sacrifice they will make, for they make it in the name of compassion, the only cause worth fighting and dying for. And of
yes.
course, we've heard a lot on BookTube that this series is about compassion.
Compassion.
So that's why I highlighted that, because that's probably one of the lines that many people point out when they're saying stuff like that.
Hmm. Yeah. And this is about Tavor and her army, right?
This is no, this is uh, the Caliph
Mm.
with the Kachin Jamal,
Oh,
because
right.
she's
I
saying,
think
now let's go find our champions. And
right. And it turns to and she picks people from the Malazan army.
yeah,
So at this time, I think you can't help but think that she means pick someone from that army because we know where they're headed. We don't necessarily know what it is they want to do yet. But is it did we find out before or after this that I think it was in Reaper Scale, right? That she has this tower, has this secret weapon in her hand, and it's tiny, but it's big. It's important, and the secret weapon is compassion, as it turns out. That's in this book, or is it?
I don't know. I don't remember. I really
Mm,
don't.
yeah, but regardless, this I think we definitely at this point can make the connection to the Malazan army from
Hmm.
here, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I
and
even I wrote down a note.
yeah, and yeah, because that's yeah,
Yeah, I like this.
it's in compassion is worth sacrificing for as well, and that's it's not just about compassion for its own sake. It's that it's
Mhm.
worth sacrificing for, and
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
it's a great line.
I think there's a line a couple of paragraphs above this. Um, they want a faith from me, a religion. They want to return to the vanity of the righteous. I can't
Mhm.
do that. I can't. I think this is still Caleb. They want to return to the vanity of the righteous. That again resonates with the line you read earlier, Jared,
Oh
about
yeah, right there.
um,
Yeah,
yeah, how some religions like to keep their followers ignorant. So yeah.
yeah, that's good. Yep, very good. Let's see what we got here next. Justice without compassion was the destroyer of morality, a slayer
Yes.
blind to empathy. So that's on the same theme right
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
But this was from somebody else's point of view.
Mm.
So somebody else is Taxilian, um, and somebody else is pointing out that same theme, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, that compassion is important, and justice without it is not good. So
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. So do
yeah.
you think so can I spoil a different book real quick? Perdido Street Station, one that we've both read.
Hmm.
Um so this has echoes to me of the choice theft in Perdido Street Station. How the choice theft is described when the Garuda are punished for choice theft. It's they have to have context, right? It's choice theft of the third degree with utter disrespect, or the intention of the crime is taken into account when meting out punishment. So I think that really, so justice without compassion, so justice with compassion would, for instance, are you stealing bread to feed your family, or are you stealing gold to become rich, right? So
Mm.
the
Yep.
context that becomes important in a crime, or what would be deemed a crime by law, I think taking adding compassion to the judgment of that uh, makes all the difference. And I like that. That's what this line is saying, and I think yeah, it reminds me of the necessary context aspect of the choice theft in
Awesome.
Perdido Street
Yeah.
Station. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great correlation. Um, and cool. All right, so let's move on to this. Ah, Today
Mm,
I stop carrying you. Tomorrow I stop carrying me. Um,
mm.
I really like that. I think it was the who was saying that?
Badal, I think. It's her
But
poems, right?
Badal, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
and yeah, because he's the poet among
Mhm.
the snake children there, and I like that because it's kind of speaks of burdens,
Mm,
and he's referring to the burdens they have. Today I stopped carrying you, which is mainly where it says your burden,
mhm,
and tomorrow I stop carrying me.
mm.
Where my burdens will fall once I fall. And
Yeah. Yeah.
I like just thought it was poetic, and I just
Yeah.
thought it was very, very beautiful.
Yeah, I love that. And it could mean like it could be very sad in that I stopped carrying you because you died or fell, or and I stopped carrying you because I died. Like, so it could be the hopeless version of it. Or it could be that you no longer need my help, and I can I don't need I don't have any burdens anymore either. So there's like the hopeful side of it, and then there's the I don't
Yeah,
remember the rest of this poem, so I don't know which one would fit or if both would. But just out of context, just these four lines, I like that. Yeah,
yeah,
it's
I like it too.
beautiful.
It's
Yeah,
yeah, it's very beautiful. And it's a kind of a wistful hopefulness,
yeah, yeah,
not like a
mm,
glorious hopeful,
yeah,
and it's just it resonated with me when
yeah.
I did
Just
that.
just like the one about the river running clear at some point.
Yeah.
Just hope.
Yep.
That's all these kids have.
Yep. Exactly. We skip ahead quite a bit here to 388, where it says, Ona's Tulin's body had been torn apart. This broke my heart.
Yeah,
What he had to do and what was done to him in his and I I just remember this and I was just like, wow, I wanted to cry. It was so heartbreaking what happened to him and all that. I really hate the bar gas now.
yeah.
So, uh,
Yeah, at this point, they're hard to like for
at this
sure.
point, yeah.
Yeah.
But I just highlighted that to remind me of that. And of course, Tool becomes he was already
Mm,
important in some of the previous books, and then he becomes important later on as
yeah.
well. Uh, and
I like the
so,
note that you wrote here. How does one rise to that
oh
level of
yes,
sacrifice?
that's right. I
Yeah.
forgot about that. Thank you for reminding me. Yeah, that was a question
Yeah.
that I asked. I
Mm,
was like, he did that. He killed himself, basically. I mean, no, he gave the credit to the other guy,
yeah.
but um, he did that to save what he thought he was saving people. It
Yeah.
it didn't work out very well. But yeah, how does one rise to that level of sacrifice? Because it's such a gamble.
Yeah.
It's there's no guarantee that
Mhm.
anything that what he did was going to work in his favor or anybody
Yeah.
else's favor. It was such a gamble. And how do you make that decision? How do you rise to that level of sacrifice? And I think it it also you, I mean, the thing we got to remember is that
Mm,
this guy has been around for
a very long.
thousands
Yeah.
thousands and thousands of years. So he has a different way of looking at things than
Mm,
any of us might. And I think Erikson captured that perfectly in that sequence
yeah.
and how Tool dealt with it and how he's able to rise to that level of sacrifice. Just
Yeah. Yeah.
very powerful.
And I think Tool's thread is also especially poignant in this book too, because way back in Memories of Ice, when we get those snippets of all the Tilanimas as they are being freed by Itkovian, the thoughts they have, some of them think to themselves that they should have stood with Tool, stopped the ritual from being conducted that made them the undead for all these thousands of years, hundreds of thousands of years. And and he's kind of dealing with a similar situation here. He's asking his people to stop and think and not do not go to war for without thinking about it. and he's once again he's made that sacrifice. Like he's kind of standing with his people, but also he his wisdom is being ignored, which the the parallels to the past and how he has to deal with that again. I think yeah, that's absolutely brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's tragic how what happens later on too, and how his attitude changes.
Yeah.
So just okay, I got to move on. Uh the next one is, oh yes, Jon
Mm,
Tavis leading the Sheikh to the city to Carquinez, or
yes.
however you say that. Um, I just like the reference.
Yeah.
I just like
Mm,
finally seeing
yeah.
Carquinez in the book
Mm,
Carquinez, and I finally because you've heard about it before, but
mm-hmm.
never really. Now we're actually there. We're
Yeah.
actually the Sheikh have arrived, and I just like that it's finally mentioned. Really,
And this is a bit of a reveal too, right? I think the one line, the one word even revealed that their home is Carcanis. It's not it we didn't know before this, if I
right?
remember correctly, that this is where they were headed. So it is pretty we
Yeah.
knew that they were descendants of the Teast somehow, but um I don't think we knew that this is where they were headed. So this was also in terms of revelations, which I think Erikson does magnificently.
Mhm.
Um this one also stood out for that reason, I think.
Yeah, yeah. It's great stuff. Yeah. Let's see. Moving into book 3, Only the Dust Will Dance.
Oh.
Um, we have unexpected strengths come from such mating. The offspring often exhibit the best traits from both.
Mm.
Um, and that was
It's,
interesting
yeah.
because it made me think, of course, of Icarium because
Mm.
he is the offspring of a Jagat in what was the
Oh,
other
I
half?
forget the other side. Oh yeah, Toblakai.
Tobacco. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, right. And so it made me think of him because we're not supposed to forget about him, even though he's not in the book all that much.
Yeah.
He is important.
Mhm.
And who was it?
This is Rad,
Oh,
right?
this is
Uh,
yeah, Rud.
yeah.
Udinas's
Yeah.
offspring,
Right.
who's a dragon
Mhm.
as well.
With Menandor, right? Who's the mother?
Menandor, yeah, yep,
Yeah. Okay.
Menandor, and so yeah, he definitely took the best
Mm.
traits
Mm.
of both. He's quite the character,
Mm.
and I know he's going to come into play big time later on.
Yeah.
So that was just in the, but I like it. The line didn't just refer to Rudd; it referred to other characters in the story, and so I thought that was important at the time
Mhm.
that I because I even wrote I carry him here, but how many others are also of that kind of mixed blood
Yeah.
that this relates to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. So I get the mage oboe in Mala's city seems certain of that. This is another reference to an Esselmont book. This is
Oh,
an oboe
interesting.
is in he's in I think he's in Knight of Knives.
Mm.
And I think he's also in um one of the other ones too. And I can't remember which one, but that was and he's in Malice. I know he's in Knight of Knives, definitely.
Mm.
And that was just a reference to a mage that was, of the old school from a
Mm.
long time ago, that a lot of Malazans knew back then. And so I just like, it was just like a shout out to
Mm.
the novels of the Malazan Empire.
Yeah. Nice.
Oh yeah, I said, whoa, reference to Nine Knives.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so there it is. I should pay attention to my own notes, huh? Okay. Next we have so many fallen, she said to Sadik, who remembered everything. I could list them. I could make them into a book 10,000 pages
Yeah.
long. And I was like, "Wait a minute, this
Yeah.
is a."
Wait a minute.
I'm like, "Yeah, is this 10,000 pages? It just might be."
Yeah,
This
the
whole
whole Book of the Fallen, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
very nearly so. If you look at the mass market paperback editions, it might just add up.
Yeah, it's pretty
Yeah.
close, if not there,
Mhm.
but, and of course, Fallen, so it just
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
was kinda like, "Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
a little reference
That's
to that."
Yeah, I
That's
like
pretty
that.
cool.
It's brilliant.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I highlighted that too.
Oh, yeah. Uh, Page 451, we have "The son devours the father, heart of 1,000 myths, a
Mm.
1,000 half-forgotten tales." And that, of course, is a direct reference to mythology,
Mhm.
and also do like, I make a real world
Yeah.
reference here. Do humans devour Neanderthal? Um, is that the
Yeah. Yeah.
father myth there? Um, you know, it there's a lot of inferences you can make from that kind of a line as far as mythological, anthropological, and stuff like
Yeah,
that. So,
I like that. It also reminds me of the opening of Blood Meridian, and that it basically says that the child was born in a pool of blood because his mother died giving birth to him. And I think that's used as a metaphor for races that or civilizations that are built on top of other civilizations, the
mm,
the
very good.
ashes of
Yeah,
other
yeah,
civilizations. So I like this too. Like I think it's a similar comparison that you're making here. Yeah.
very cool. Yeah, good point. I like it. Um, and then Talk mutters, "I'd given up believing in evil." Um,
Oh,
why did he mutter that? Why did he mutter that?
I don't remember. Wait, she's yeah, he means the is it a it's not a folklore sale, right? Is it?
No, he's talking to Ola Ethel,
Oh, yeah, sorry. She's still anonymous, right? Or yeah. So and
the
he's calling
elder.
her evil. That's the
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, he's being facetious there,
yeah, yeah.
sarcastic or what have you, and I so that was more of a amusing thing,
Yeah, yeah.
because he didn't, he didn't really give that up, but, in that it's kinda funny because we know that Ola Ethel has many reasons for all the things she's doing,
Hmm.
which of course would seem evil to a lot of people. Um, but there's also a lot of other reasons why she does things. So
Yeah.
it's talks talk of course has good reason to dislike her. Um,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, that's a
uh,
funny line for sure. Yeah.
yeah, and then here we
Mm.
have Ayala Alao,
Mhm.
who tends the gardens of the moon,
Yes, she does.
forever awaiting her lover. I am Burn, the sleeping goddess. Um, that is Olar Ethel saying that, right?
Oh, interesting. Is she but she's saying, "I am Burn, the sleeping goddess." Oh, yeah, she
Right,
says that she's been many goddesses over the course of her
right,
life.
and
Right, yeah.
that threw me for a loop.
Mm,
Uh, you know, first the reference to the Gardens of the Moon, which was cool, but
yeah.
um, but her saying, "I am Burn, the sleeping goddess,"
Yeah.
uh, I'm like, well, is she like the aspect that she's in right? Because she's an elder,
Mhm.
um, and the aspect that she's in right now is she's a undead
Dilanimas.
Amas, right?
Yeah.
Um, and it just makes you wonder because she's listing off all this stuff. She's Ruth, Wrath of Vain to the Fork Rule of
Mm,
Sail, Stone Bitch to the Jaga, and so it's like how many. It just gives you a clue into how long they've been around, but
yeah.
and just the ages involved here, and also the fact that she's been in all these different roles and it just gives you a bigger, like this mind-blowing sense of what the
Yeah.
stakes are and what in the powers involved and how, but also how like mortals affect things so much because she's not taking anything for granted here.
Mm,
She's she's an elder god, but yet
yeah.
she's seems to be fighting for survival still,
Mm,
in a certain way.
yeah.
Not that she's ever going to go away as an elder goddess, but there's a certain survival aspect that she wants to keep. And I just that just threw me for a loop, 'cause
Yeah.
once again, the scope of the whole thing is mind blowing.
I love this too. I think there is I think you're slightly familiar with Hindu mythology. There is a certain goddess, I think, who has many forms. I It recently blew my mind. Like I'm not super familiar with some of these myth stories, but recently blew my mind that two or three goddesses that I thought were different and their own beings were actually aspects of the same goddess.
Mm,
So this has echoes of that a little bit, I think. The one I'm thinking of is Durga, and she's also Parvati, and she's also, I don't know, like 20 other goddesses, and she's known by different names in different parts of the country too. So this reminds me a bit of that. So there was one aspect of hers which was like, there's a mangrove forest, and she had a fight with Shiva in that mangrove forest or something, and she has a separate aspect of hers related to that. So anyway, like it just reminded reminded me of that as well, like how the same goddess gets different names or has different
mhm.
uh aspects revealed to people based on where they're from or what part of her they worship. So that's pretty cool too, but I
That's
like the
awesome.
scale aspect that you mentioned too.
Yeah, that's awesome. I like that. Yeah. Yeah, I think Erikson definitely took advantage
Hmm.
that sense of mythology and that sense of,
Hmm.
that's cool. Um, Next I have another line that says, "Kalor understood. He saw Silver Fox for what she was."
Mm.
And, that, of course, goes all the way back to Memories of Ice, um, where he ended up killing Whiskey Jack over Silver Fox.
Yeah.
Um, and, it just reminded I saw a hashtag somewhere that said hashtag "Kalor is misunderstood" or something like that, or
Yeah,
"Kalor
color did
Kalor was
nothing
right.
wrong.
Kalor
Yeah.
did nothing wrong," yeah,
Yeah.
and, uh, and I'm like, "Oh, there it is right there. Kalor did nothing wrong." Uh,
But do you know what this is referencing? We didn't see Silver Fox again in these two books, right? I think, is this referencing something that happens in Esselmont's books?
yes, Silver Fox plays a role in, a sale, I believe.
Okay.
Maybe Blood and Bone, but
Hmm.
definitely a sale, I think, and that's like the 6th book in that series,
Hmm.
but, um so yeah, Silver Fox does make a return to
Okay.
Malazan from way back in Memories of Ice, so yeah,
Okay.
um, and that's a lot of that stuff is explained in that book, so which is pretty cool. So that
Yeah.
was another reason I did this because it's another reference to
Yeah.
more Esselmon stuff as well, so it's pretty and Kalor makes an appearance in the novels of the Malazan Empire as well, so
Hmm.
that's something to keep in mind as well. Very cool stuff. Then right after that, I have the dust of the Talanamas has crossed the ocean and even now closes upon the shores of a sail, and we all know what awaits them there. What awaits them there
Hmm.
is Silver Fox,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
uh, I'm sorry I'm spoiling that for you, but
Oh, no, that's fine.
but this is a direct reference to
Okay.
the Esselmon books as well. So
Hmm.
I thought that was cool. I just wanted to I had to underline that because I was like, because I'm like, oh yeah,
No, that's really cool.
I can't wait to
Yeah.
read that again. That's gonna be cool. Uh, and next we have soldiers. Erastus was frowning, ascended, confused, frightened by the notion. This is an elder god, frightened by this notion that his soldiers are
Hmm.
ascending.
Oh, yeah.
And what name did he possess among these ascended soldiers? Male asked. Whiskey Jack. He was a Malazan. And so right
Nice.
there,
Yeah.
it's we get the confirmation that, Whiskey Jack is there. Um, I really like that these elder gods are sitting around talking to each
Yeah.
other,
Yeah.
and they're not happy with each other, and they're realizing this stuff that these mortals are catching up to them, basically.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
the
I
elder
like
gods aren't the shit anymore. These mortals are catching up to them, and it's pretty cool.
how cool was it when you found out that Iskar Jarek is Whiskey Jack? I
Yeah,
think it was in Reaper's Gale, right? Yeah, that
I
was
believe so. Yeah.
absolutely brilliant. And I love the next paragraph immediately after that, where Mile notes that the master of the deck and the unpredictable, unknowable ally, the adjunct, they're all Malazan.
Mhm.
So yeah,
Yep. Yeah. So and it's just funny how scared these elder gods
yeah,
are of these mortals and what they're gonna do, and they're yeah, it's really cool.
yeah, it really is.
Let's see what we got next here. All right. Once again, we get a reference here. The Justal priest of Male now
Mm,
rises to take the throne of the most powerful empire.
yeah.
Um, and that is a direct reference to Malik Rel,
Mm,
which Malik Rel plays a big part in the path to ascendancy in Forge of the High
okay.
Mage.
Hmm. Okay.
Um, and he also, of course, is now the emperor. Um, and that's you know, I just like it because it references
Um,
the other stuff. It
mhm,
references Return of the Crimson Guard and on, and it references more Esselmon stuff. It's pretty cool.
mhm,
Um, and all right, this one's and then I made a note here
mm,
about the whole chapter. Because this chapter was chapter 16,
mhm.
and at first glance it seems tamed, yet it's actually full of revelations for the whole series. There's a reference to almost every book, so that's kind of what I've been pointing out here, including the ice books. And there's also a bunch of informative character building sections that give you hints and set up as to what this army will soon be going through. There is also an excellent explanation of what the elder gods are trying to accomplish and what they are up against. And it's just I thought, an amazing chapter, a greater exposition disguised as small character moments.
Mm.
And
Yeah,
I really liked this chapter for those reasons and how much we got out of it, even though there wasn't like a there wasn't like a bunch of action. There wasn't any action. There was just
yeah,
all these revelations and all this character moments that were actually explanations of what the big picture is.
yeah, yeah. I like that. Are you able to pause for just a second?
Sure.
Okay. Highlighted that section and I wrote Malik Rel, that jerk. I don't remember why I thought him a jerk, but I think it was was it the fifth, no, sixth book, right? No,
Bone Hunters. Yeah.
Bone
His
Hunters, right?
his
Yeah, yeah,
full his full jerkiness comes through in Bone Hunters, yeah.
yeah.
Uh all right. So continuing on here, we got 525. I see. This is where oh, what's her name?
Badal?
It's not, but yeah, Badal, yeah.
Yeah,
Says realizes that I have the power to do nothing. I have all the powers of a god,
yeah.
and I just thought that
Uh,
was a great line
yes, I love that. Yes.
because the gods have done nothing for them,
Yes.
despite prayers, despite pleas. Um, that is basically what they believe right now because they're on their own. They're on their own more than any other characters we've read
Yeah.
about in this novels.
Yes.
And I really like that revelation there. I have the power to do nothing. I like that.
I love that. Yeah.
I might use that someday.
I'm like a god. I have the power to do nothing.
Yeah. um,
Uh,
this next one is a funny line. Uh, the real meaning of tradition was, what had he called it? Oh, stupidity on purpose. I laughed out loud at that.
That's fantastic. Yes, it is.
That's just
No
funny.
further explanation
Yeah.
needed. Thank you very much.
No, not at all. That's just funny stuff there. Um, where was I? Okay. Here we go. Okay, so next one we have his steps slowed. He looked around blearily. I am lost. Where am I? I don't understand. Where am I? And what are all these broken things in my hands? Still crashing down. The roar is deafening. And I forget why I did this. It was a character's epiphany
Mm.
of some sort. And I think this was
Si-
this was a guy who killed or who Onos Tulan made kill him.
Mm.
And he's deciding to save Tool's wife.
Mm.
Um and he's having this epiphany about his society, his place
Mm.
in society, what his tribe is like. He doesn't like it. He doesn't like what he's seeing. And that's what he's asking. He's like, I am lost within my own people. I don't understand.
Yeah.
How did we all get here like this, you know?
Yeah.
And I thought that was a pretty profound moment for that character.
I like that. And what are all these broken things in my hands?
Hmm.
Is that referencing something that he actually is holding, or is it the breakdown of his people that he's contemplating?
Yeah, I
Possibly.
think it's yeah, I think it's the breakdown of his people. Yeah.
Mm, I like that.
Yeah.
A, a battered there's a line two paragraphs above. A battered tin cup half filled with compassion, not enough to splash a dozen people closest to me. I like that.
Yeah. Very cool.
Very
So poetic.
sad.
So
But
poetic. Yeah, it's so
yeah.
sad. Yeah, the whole situation is so sad. Um, all right. So his name was Siljas Ruin. This was in reference um to the past.
Mm,
Um and it's a reference to Cacanus.
yeah.
Because this is the Sheikh again talking
Hmm.
about their long ago past. And I just like that this chapter, it's chapter, I don't know what chapter it is,
Mm,
but
uh,
there was a lot more revelations in
yeah.
this chapter. It's the final one before book 4. And Sochas Ruin was another revelation. You know, you get a little bit more history of
Yeah.
the Teist Endi and their kind of civil war with each other, the brothers fighting against each other and stuff like that. And I thought it was cool.
It really is. And also, I think I don't I'd like to hear how this went for you, but I think until this moment, Silkis did not have much to recommend himself to me. Like, yeah, I almost felt like I'm not supposed to like him very much. And I had a certain distance from him, which I don't think that changed very much even now. But at this point, finding out one who could not weep and yet had taken into his soul a people's sorrow, a realm's sorrow, like
Mhm.
finding that out about him, I think that that is brilliant. That changes everything, doesn't it? That makes you rethink everything that you've seen about this person until
Yeah,
now as well. So yeah,
yeah,
I can see
no,
why
that's
you
very good.
highlighted that. Yeah.
And yeah, and it's also it's funny because you're right about reading this series. Silchus Ruin is not um he's not the most likable guy.
Hmm.
From what you've seen in Reaper's Gale and stuff like that, the way he was treating
Mm.
Udinaz and Serenpedek and
Hmm.
Featherwitch and stuff, the way he was treating them and Charles, not Troll, was it Charles Senga?
No,
That
I
was
don't
with
think
him.
he was traveling with them.
One of the
No.
Sengas was with him.
Yeah. Oh
But
yeah, the elder one. Yeah.
yeah,
I forget his
and
name.
so the way he was, he was kind of a jerk, and
Hmm.
so, but when I reread it this time. I
Mm.
had also already read Carquinus,
Mm.
so I kind of had a
Yeah.
different perspective.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
uh,
This was a fascinating revelation about Silkus Ruin for
yeah,
sure.
absolutely. Moving on to book 4, The
Mhm.
Path Forever Walked. Says, you want meaning? Make it up. You want truth? Invent it. Makes no difference to anything. Sun comes up, sun goes down. We see one, maybe we don't see the other. The sun doesn't care, does it? Uh, that's just practical
Yeah.
Malazan thinking there. I love that.
I love it. Yeah.
a, a soldier's wisdom, I called it. So
Nice.
I thought that was just great. A great soldier telling it how it is.
Yeah. And I think also the underlying point there that any meaning we see in the world is something that we made up. It's not just that, you know, he's not just asking this person to be practical. It's also that we make our own worldview, if that makes sense. I
Mhm.
feel like that's sort of the underlying point, and I maybe agree with it a little bit. So it, yeah,
Yeah,
it's even more profound than
yeah,
just
and
yeah.
yeah, and it's just and it's also yeah, right. You're right. It's saying, you know, give meaning to yourself.
Hmm. Yeah.
Don't, don't depend on others to give it to you for you. Give it to yourself, and I like
Right.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and and then we have Draconus return to the continent.
Yes.
I felt his footfall. I loved it. I love
I
this
love
whole
this. Yeah.
uh and the return of Draconus is huge. It's a big event in
Yeah.
this book. And the interesting line here past that is he returned to see for himself the madness of Kalor.
Mm.
And that triggers something because we don't know much about Kalor.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, we know he's like immortal and he ruled a bunch of empires in the past. Um, and he not a very nice guy.
Mhm.
And but it's just interesting that Kalor has that kind of tie
Yeah.
to these elder people,
Yeah. Yeah.
these elder gods, and uh, and so it was just very interesting there. But yeah, but the big event, of course, is
Yeah.
Draconis. So.
Yeah. I like that. Yeah, I like the other elder interaction or the elder interaction that I remember with Kalor is from Memories of Ice when he brags about how he's ruled over so many kingdoms, seen so many civilizations fall, and so on and so forth. And he says, "What does that tell you?" And one of them, I think it was Anomander Rig, he says, "Oh, no, it was a Caledon Brood." He says, "Yes, you never learn."
Mm. Yeah, right. Yeah, yeah. And there was also a reference to Jakaruku
Mm,
um, earlier, right here, and I don't know if you
yeah.
see that mouse there, but
Hmm.
um, and that is actually the continent,
Mm,
which is where Blood and Bone, the fifth book of the novels of the Malazan Empire, takes place.
I see. Hmm.
So and there's stuff in there that gets revealed as well. So it was just another ice reference there that was pretty cool as well.
Cool.
Um, let's see. He spawned the twins and left them to inherit the pathetic game. This is a reference to what's his name?
Opon, right?
Well, the Opon's the twins,
Right?
but the guy
The
who's the
sec
god Erastus is the one who spawned them. Um, and I found that very interesting.
was it
Was it
Erastus
Erastus?
or the Foculaceae? This was his name Seculat? I
Oh
don't
no, yeah, right.
yeah.
Setcholath, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Um, yeah. Uh, and that was interesting because it was like this elder god
Mhm.
didn't want to deal with all the this aspect of luck,
Yeah.
good and bad, and so had he had some other gods to deal with it. Had some
Yeah.
kids. you deal with this. I don't want to deal with that anymore. I just thought that little insight into how the gods uh, procreate, I guess,
Yeah.
was uh, was a little interesting. And
I like this. Is this the place where the reference to quantum mechanics is made? That, or is it in the next book? I don't remember. But basically, I think it's Sekulat. He is complaining to himself about how um, I okay, I don't remember the words, but it is referencing the aspect of quantum mechanics that observation changes reality, right? Or at least the wave function collapse. That's what it
oh,
references. So, but I can't remember whether it's here or in the next book.
I don't remember, but I will keep my eyes open in
Yeah.
reading the Cripple God
Yes.
for anything like that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I wrote a note at it, and I don't see any notes here, so I think it's not here. But this here's another interesting question for you. In the I think the section preceding this, page 684 in my book, um, I think I don't. Yeah, we maybe we don't have time to look at the specifics, but is Carcanus inside a black hole? I guess that's the question I'll pose to you, and I'd like an answer to that at some point. But I had all kinds of questions
Oh,
about that because of the way it is described and the light surrounding the city where the Teast Leosan come in from. But there is one thing that doesn't add up in that theory. But anyway, it was fascinating to consider that. And maybe you can tell me what you make of it as you read The Cripple God.
yeah, I never thought about it as a black hole in the past, but I mean, I see no reason why a warren cannot lead to anywhere, really.
Mm,
So that's interesting, and of course, yeah, it is the realm of darkness. It's
hmm.
that's what the Andy.
Yeah. And the way time moves there and the way the Teast Leosan are frozen, I think, yeah. But
Wow, wow. Okay, my mind blown. Uh, uh, let's see here. Moving on to another reference to Justal. Um,
Mhm,
when the first empire made many sacrifices to the salty sea, and this is, of course, reference to that, which, of course, is a part of the aspect of male,
mm,
who we know is Bug,
yes.
and so just all that stuff tying together
Mhm,
is
mhm,
pretty cool. Um, and then we move on to this
mm,
another big theme in the whole Malazan Book of the Fallen is this convergence thing. The word is
mhm,
convergence, and it was when yeah the queen was talking to where are these people from? They're from
this
that
is Abrastal
yeah
Krugava. Yeah.
they're originally
Not
from that city in Genabacus, and now
right.
they've come down here to meet up with the Malazans at some point, and haven't
The
yet, but
Kidru Hill? No, the one with the black tears. Right? That's
yeah,
the people. Yeah.
Kundral, something like that. Yeah,
Kundra. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and and so they're trying to figure out what's going on as well,
Mhm. Yeah.
and this convergence comes up, and they know that a bunch of big powers are converging, and convergence is an event that happens and
Mhm.
usually does not end well um, for most mortals. uh, and so of course they're worried about it, and that's um, this is no good, but everybody's upset and they're all discussing it and arguing with each other. But that convergence thing is something that is a running theme.
Right. Every book
It's
ends in one.
every book kind of ends in a
Yeah.
convergence. And so I thought that was worth pointing out.
Yep.
And then finally we have my last highlight here. Um, None to witness, dust of dreams, dust of all that we never achieved, dust of what we might have been and what we cannot help but be. Um, I just thought that was beautiful.
Yes, it is.
It's got the title in it,
Mm-hmm.
um, and of course, none to witness. That's what Adjunct Devore,
Mm.
her big speech in Midnight Tides, not
Right.
Midnight Tides, Rebus
In
Gale.
Reaper's Scale.
Yeah, Rebus Gale.
Yeah.
Her big speech there that said we will be unwitnessed, and of course, they're in direct contrast to the whole witness thing with Karsa Orlong, but
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, which is great, and I just thought that was a poetic way of kind of wrapping up
Yeah.
some of the feel of this whole book right here, and very poetic stuff.
I agree. It's beautiful. I also like the next line, though I can't remember at the moment what it is referencing. Statues are never mute. Their silence is a roar of words. Will you hear? Will you listen? I like that.
Yeah, that's a little more subtle. I'm not sure
Yeah.
exactly what that means. I have to think about that one.
Yeah. Is it about are the history that is inherently embodied in a statue? And
That's good. Yeah, yeah, because statues are created for a reason,
yeah.
and they speak what the artist sees,
Mm-hmm.
um, and the artist is trying to portray what their
Mm-hmm.
society is like at that time, or what that person or whatever that statue represents.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so and will you listen to that? Will you hear that when
Yeah.
they put that up there?
Yeah,
That's good.
understand history, which I think is nice in the context of Tilana Mas, because I think this group in particular, I think they're not too happy about their history and how I think this is the group that also has the realization that they couldn't have done anything, that the war against tyranny is endless because new races kept coming up and
Hmm.
it was fine. They didn't need to do anything about it. Um, so maybe that's what it is, that, look at history and don't make the same mistakes. Perhaps that's what it is. Will you hear? Will you listen? But
Hmm.
I could be all wrong about that because I don't remember the rest of the context from this passage.
Hey, that's okay. Uh, well, so overall, any other passing final thoughts on Dust of Dreams?
um, no, I think you really covered it at the beginning. It was a very a fantastic read for me. I loved every minute of it. I love the things that it set up, like the conclusion of the snake, for instance. That was brilliant. What happens with the shake? There is so much to look forward to in the next book, and I'm realizing now as we made our way through it how much of it, the intensity of what happens there. The two that stood out to me were the ones I mentioned: the snake the Malazan army and the Sheikh, the battle as they stopped the Liusan from entering Karkanis. I think those two, the conclusions of those stories, are the parts that stood out to me the most in the Cripple God. And so, and we went through parts of the setup here in Dust of Dreams, and I'm seeing how much was done here to make those so impactful when we get to the Cripple God. And also, I realized I remembered a lot, which is new for me. Where I don't remember details from books that I read, which, I think it's something about the way the series is written that I just tend to remember some details, even though it's been nearly a year since I last read the book. So I'm glad for this walk down memory lane.
Awesome. All right, and for those of you who stuck through this, thank you, and I hope you got as much out of Duster's Dreams as we did,
Yes.
and I hope you enjoyed this little experiment. All right, as always, be good to each other, and thank you.